Good evening, spooks. Let me take you on a little journey. Let us journey together. So between 10 and 12 years ago, my timeline is grey. I don't remember exactly when I purchased this book, but I did. I visited a little town called Wells next to the sea. And if you haven't visited Norfolk in England, or you're not familiar with Norfolk in England, this is a coastal town, Wells next to the sea. If you think about it too much, it's the most ridiculously named town I've ever come across. It basically means here is a town and next there is the sea. So stop driving at some point, I guess, otherwise a glug. I paid a visit here whilst I was visiting Norfolk around the time I was at university, okay? So I was definitely coming towards the end of university. And a little bit of jest lore for you. At university, I studied English language and creative writing. So I did a lot of reading of books that I didn't really want to read, but I was told to read. And if there's something about me that is true, I don't like being told what to do. That rhymed so good. Maybe I did learn something at university. Look at me go. So worth the debt. So I read a lot of books that I didn't want to read, and as I was coming to the end of university and, quite frankly, giving up, I had no desire for recreational reading. I just did not want to read anymore. And at one point, I was a very enthusiastic reader. I loved reading. And now I do again. And I wanted to reread the book that solved that slump. So I went to Wells for a little beach trip, for a little walk. I don't know who I was with at the time. I believe my mum was there. I can't really remember. But I remember going to the shop and buying this book. I read the premise, it sounded like it would be thrilling, and so I picked it up. And that book solved my slump from university. It got me back into reading. There was a brief period just before COVID where I then slumped again and hadn't read for a few years. I think I maybe read a book a year, and then COVID happened, and then I got back into reading again, and here we are. But for a time, this book solved my slump. And so what we're going to do, over 10 years later, we're going to reread this book, and we're going to see whether it can still solve a slump. I'm not currently in a slump, but I want to know whether this book has the tools to solve a slump. The book in question is Rose Madder by Stephen King. This is a chunky 600-page book, and it is a horror/fantasy, apparently. I will be honest, I don't really remember that much. I know that there is domestic violence in it, and I know the main character escapes. After that, I don't have a clue. I kind of remember the slight fantasy side of it. I know there's a painting, and I believe our main character goes into the painting. Aside from that, I don't have a clue. I don't know how this ends. I'm hoping in victory, but I can't remember. So I'm very interested to see what happens and whether it still packs a punch, whether it still keeps me entertained for 600 pages. I can't believe that I read so many pages so long ago. Because right now, if I picked up a book this big, I would find it very intimidating. So I am a little bit intimidated. But anyway, let's crack on. Let's roll the clips of me reading the book, and I'll catch up with you in a minute. Bye! I forgot how unbelievably sad this book started. I think it hits differently 12 years later. Now I'm a fully fledged adult. Like, it definitely affected me as somebody in my early 20s. But in early 30s, that hits differently. Wow. Intense start from Mr. King, but I'm hooked. I'm already hooked.
Your eyes closed, thinking, oh, all right, yes, I suppose I can have another baby.
This book is hurting my feelings because it's so realistic. So let me read this to you. Oh my god, that scared the shit out of me. I just saw a message come up, but it obviously like slides to my phone, and I thought someone walked behind me. I'm fine. I don't even know how that would happen unless they can scale buildings. But anyway, what was I saying? Okay. So this is a turning point, okay? So it's very upsetting. There is a lot of domestic violence in this book, and I'm only on page 19. However, this is the turning point. So there's a little positivity at the end. Hang in there. We are talking about Norman, and Norman is Rosie's husband, and he is extremely violent and abusive. Norman had been working on her kidneys for 14 years, and the traces of blood she saw more and more frequently in her urine no longer surprised or worried her. It was just another unpleasant part of being married, that was all. And there were probably millions of women who had it worse. Thousands right in this town. So she'd always seen it anyway, until now. When I tell you that gave me goosebumps, first of all because this man is so calculated. He doesn't just beat his wife, he beats her in places that he knows people won't be able to see, and it's just mind-blowing that people live lives like this. And the until now at the end just gave me goosebumps because I feel like we are, I mean, I've read this before, but I have no recollection. I have a little bit of memory about it, but I feel like now we're about to go on a journey of power. And it isn't going to be Norman's power, it's going to be Rosie's. And I can't wait for it. I can't wait for her to have her freedom. Okay. Wait, because there's more. It goes on to continue. Okay, you just need to hear the next bit and then I will leave you alone. Except you're not leaving me alone because you're watching this, so more fool you. So basically there's this drop of blood that she's found on her bed, which has shocked her into the whole until now thing. So she then says, she looked at the spot of blood, feeling unaccustomed resentment throbbing in her head, feeling something else, a pins and needles tingle, not knowing this was the way you felt when you finally woke up. I have had that feeling. I know exactly what you mean, Stephen.
It was early May, real spring, the time when a young man's fancy is supposed to lightly turn to thoughts of love.
You said why do I even bother to dream anymore when life has closed every door worth opening?
Hi, update real fast. Don't look at my face too closely. I am going through it today. However, there are many homophobic and racial slurs in this, particularly in the chapter that I'm currently on. And whilst it's difficult because this is an awful character, this man beats his woman. He wants to beat her to death. So he is a murderer. So the fact that he is also homophobic and racist is unsurprising, but if I'm looking at the basics of what I'm reading, this is a white old man writing the N-word in one of his stories, and I just can't fuck with that. I was shocked to hear it. I obviously did not pick this up when I was early 20s, but I was shocked. I had to rewind and be like, surely I misheard that. At the time, I was making my lunch and listening to the audiobook, but no. He says it 3 times within about a paragraph. It's definitely not going to be a 5-star now, is it? Even if I'm looking at the fact that it's because I am trying very hard to... That's the character's personality. We are meant to hate this character, right? So it's used to fuel the hatred, but I just find it unnecessary. It's just unnecessary. That's all.
When I look up there, all I see is a dream I can never have. Oh, I wanted to believe life held something good for me, but I can't. I'm in a nosedive, don't know if I'll be alright. I'm coming down loud at the speed of sound. What a
I finished reading Rose Madder by Stephen King, all 600 pages of it. Let me check I am not lying to you. All 580 something pages of it, and yeah, this totally held up. I think back when I first read this in possibly 2012, 2013, 2014, it was one of those years, okay? I would have rated it a 5-star if I had rated books back then, and rereading it now in 2024, I would have to rate it 4 stars, and that is only because if you look at this book as a craft, as a plot, then it is a 5-star read. But there were just some words in it that I could not look past, okay? It has to drop down at least 1 star because I can't sit there and read slurs over and over again and still have a good time. I just can't. And I read to have a good time. The thrill of this book was definitely there. It makes it so worth reading. The plot is incredibly clever. It is a horror. It is a thriller. There is suddenly a supernatural element. It is really incredible and very well written. And despite being a very long book, it's needed. Every page in here was worth reading. I just can't read slurs and still rate something a 5-star. I just can't. And I appreciate that these words were used to portray a character. I don't think this is a reflection of the author. I don't know. If you have any discourse on it, please write in the comments because I'd be very interested to hear other people's opinions. But I didn't get the impression this was the author taking liberties and using the opportunity to use words that are unacceptable. But I felt like it was us being shown a character who is so unbelievably horrifying and disgusting and hateful. This man hates everybody. Everybody except for himself, basically, he hates. So there is a lot of hateful language in here, and I do recommend, if you're going to pick this one up, to look through the trigger warnings. It is an extremely dark read. Lots of horrible, horrifying things happen. There's lots of torture, there is murder, there is abuse, and there are a lot of slurs. So definitely recommend looking up all trigger warnings before you dive into this one. But I do believe it is well worth a read, and it is a 4-star read for me. So the slump solver did in fact hold up, and I do believe this would solve a slump. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you have any recommendations, if there's a Stephen King book you think I should pick up next, I own Pet Sematary, Doomakey, and The Stand, or The Strand? The Stand. I am interested in reading Pet Sematary. I don't actually know anything about the other two. I don't know why I own them, but I do. Plus, The Stand is huge. The Stand could stand up by itself. It's massive. But I would be interested to read Pet Sematary, or if there's another that you think that I would enjoy based on the fact I enjoyed Rose Madder, please put your recommendations down below. Otherwise, I'll catch you in a video very, very soon. Bye!